Welcome to our Backyard Brothers podcast. We are two of three Backyard Brothers today. Cody can't be with us due to a family situation. We're going to finish just Dustin and I. We would normally put it off, but the NBA season tips off Tuesday. So we need to finish the NBA preview and finish it that way. So I'm going to maybe there we go. Share my screen. And I'm going to start back here for just a second because everything we've presented so far has been current and accurate until this week. There was a trade between the Rockets and the Thunder, and just wanted to show a couple of these. Let's get out of the way. So Victor Oladipo was traded from the Thunder. Technically, he's an addition for Miami because he didn't play for the Thunder this season. But he and Jeremiah Robinson Earl were traded from the Rockets or from the Thunder to the Rockets for Kevin Porter, who has some serious domestic violence incidents. He's going to be directly released from the Thunder and won't play this year. So that's the only update to the Rockets. Any quick analysis about that?
I was just looking forward to seeing Oladipo back on the Thunder.
Yeah.
I'm kind of saddened by that, but I think that he'll fit in with this young athletic crew on the Rockets and be able to kind of coach and teach them how to go from a raw athletic talent, which he used to be, to a strong developed player. I think he's a good leader there.
Yeah. Yep, I like that too. And I thought the same thing. I was excited to have him back on the Thunder. So I'm going to very quickly go through all of these again to get back to our. Okay. Starting with the Southwest Division or Southeast Division. I always do that. The Atlanta Hawks. Um, they seem to be always kind of mired in mediocrity, but still make it to the playoffs. And they have a lot of players that they should be better than where they have been. Their starting lineup. They lose John Collins. He's the one loss from this starting lineup. Replacing him is Onyeka Okongwu, who was a rookie last year from USC, played really well, 10.7 rebounds a game. And so he's going to step up into the starting lineup alongside DeAndre Hunter, Clint Capella, who good 12 points, 11 rebounds, DeJounte Murray, and Trae Young. These two being the top scorers and playmakers on that team. Depth-wise, Sadiq Bey came over midseason last year and added quite a good amount of scoring and three-point shooting. They drafted Mohamed Gueye out of Washington State, Kobe Buffkin out of Michigan, and Seth Lundy out of Penn State. They're three draft picks. And they also acquire Patty Mills and Wesley Matthews, two veteran guards from various teams. Quinn Snyder returns for his second season as head coach. He increased the Jazz's when he was with Utah. He increased the wins for Jazz every single year that he was there, except for one. And so you can almost predict the same exact thing happening with Atlanta if he's as good of a coach as he was there. Mike Bray coming over from Notre Dame. He was the Notre Dame head coach for 24 years. And now comes over to be the Atlanta Hawks assistant coach. Igor Kokoskov has head coaching experience in the NBA as well. So let's just start with you, and we'll bounce back to me as well. But Atlanta.
I last year I liked the addition of Murray. I thought that would really help Trae Young become a more of a threat off the ball, and it did. And so I think that they'll be able to develop that more. Quinn Snyder's obviously totally bought into the 3-point strategy, live and die by the three, and I'm not totally sold in on the rest of the lineup being able to do that, but they have a couple of, with Murray and Young and a couple of other people that are able to do that, Bogdanovich. But ultimately, I don't have super high hopes for the team, but they've this is a continues to be a weak Eastern Conference. They've made the playoffs 3 years in a row, including Eastern Conference Finals 3 years ago, and so I don't want to rule them out of the playoffs, but I don't expect them to be any higher than fifth or sixth.
Yeah, when you talk about the 3-point strategy, it would look really good when you normally have Young, but he was a 33% 3-point shooter last year. He just didn't, and a lot of that is because a lot of teams went out and guarded him on the perimeter, made it difficult for him to make those shots. But I mean, they do that to Steph Curry all the time, and he makes them anyway. And so, uh, Trae Young has to figure out how to make those contested shots, or it's going to be difficult. You can't buy into the 3-point strategy and be a 33% shooter and expect that to happen. So he's been a better shooter than that in his career, but if he can't do that and expect the Hawks to be a player if he's going to only shoot that much. And so they have some other good shooters there, but Young is the engine that drives that team, and he has to shoot closer to 40%, I think, for this team to be as as good as they want to be. I do expect playoffs, but like you said, probably maybe even start in the play-in at this point. But so we'll see. Okay, Charlotte Hornets. um, I think all of my analysis starts up here. So LaMelo Ball was hurt a lot of last year. I think he played 12 games, 14 games, something like that. Not a whole lot. When he was there, obviously 23 points, 8 assists per game. He's the best player on the team. If he returns for a full season, the Hornets have a good one there. Uh, Brandon Miller, the second overall pick um, out of Alabama, or he definitely was the most NBA ready player in that draft class at the beginning. He averaged 19 points and 8 rebounds per game with Alabama. He's a one and done, but he still seems to be as ready as anyone to enter the NBA, and so he'll start immediately on that front line with Charlotte, alongside PJ Washington, kind of an undersized power forward, Mark Williams, a good shot blocker, and Terry Rozier, who scores 21 points himself. Technically these two are flipped. LaMelo Ball plays more of the point guard, but that's the way I've outlined it here. Miles Bridges returns after a full season of suspension. He had some domestic violence incidents as well last year, and the Hornets and him agreed to sit out and suspend him for the entirety of the year. He was a starter 2 years ago, but he's going to be replaced in that starting lineup by Brandon Miller and going to come off the bench. Gordon Hayward is another veteran that comes off the bench that could help a lot. Frank and Tilakina, their one veteran addition from Dallas. There are three rookies right there at the bottom right: James Najee, Amari Bailey, Nick Smith out of Arkansas. So they had 4 draft picks, including Brandon Miller, and so a lot of changes in the youth movement there. Steve Clifford returning for a second season as Charlotte head coach. He was the Hornets head coach for 6 years previously as well. So he's very familiar with that. Tyrone Corbin and Rex Walters in their second seasons, respectively, as well. The rest of this division was very difficult for me to predict. I had it's very tough. It's kind of a weak division outside of the Heat, really. And so trying to figure out where they belong and was difficult. And so the Hornets were one of the more difficult ones for me to predict as well, just because of the whole youth infusion. You have Brandon Miller coming in. How good is he going to be from the beginning? You have LaMelo Ball returning from injury. He's excellent, but is he really the only great player there? Was kind of my thought. Terry Rozier, sure, scores 20 points per game, but I don't see him in that same light. LaMelo Ball is really good. Brandon Miller could be really good, but I just have a problem seeing the Hornets to be a player in that division or in the Eastern Conference. I could be very wrong, but it's just one of those things that this was difficult for me to predict, and the way that it landed was a roulette reel that finished with the Hornets in last place in this division.
Yeah, I'm seeing it a little opposite. I'm seeing with Brandon Miller and a healthy team that they're able to get a much stronger bench with Hayward and Bridges coming off the bench, can help keep production and efficiency going when starters are sitting, and so that's overall I think a very positive thing for this team, and I do expect them to definitely not finish anything below third in their division. You know, to not take the number one spot from Miami, but it's second or third for them.
Okay.
That's a position for them to lose at this point, and so I'm hopeful. I like the Hornets. I want to see several players on this team succeed, but I'm seeing it opposite of you. As this is a team that is positioned well.
Yeah. The Eastern Conference champion Miami Heat, if everyone recalls, they were the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference and made it all the way to the NBA Finals, upsetting the Bucks on the way there, upsetting the Celtics on the way there, and one other team I can't recall right now. But and then lost to the Nuggets in 5 games. But Jimmy Butler was fantastic in those playoffs. He was fantastic throughout the season as well. But all NBA player, he continues to be the engine that drives that team. Bam Adebayo was an all-star as well as an all defensive player. 20 points and 9 rebounds a game there. They really missed Tyler Hero in the playoffs, even though they still made it to the Eastern Conference Finals or they still made it to the NBA Finals without him. He they missed his 20 points per game that he averaged, and so having him fully healthy on this team that can continue the momentum from last year should be really important for them. Caleb Martin and Kyle Lowry, the other 2 members of that starting lineup. They bring Thomas Bryant over from the Nuggets and Josh Richardson from the Pelicans. Technically, they also bring R.J. Hampton over from the Pistons, but he's not going to play a whole lot. So really, it's Richardson and Bryant. We talked about a few months ago in our NBA draft review how great of a pick Jaime Jaquez was out of UCLA.
Yeah.
He fits right into what the Heat want to do, and he should be a major player in that Heat lineup. Kevin Love and Duncan Robinson both coming off the bench, and then there's Nikola Jovic, one letter different from the much better player, but Nikola Jovic is there as well in depth. I really think what goes undersaid is how great of a coaching job that Eric Spoelstra did in the playoffs. He's in a 16th season. He's pretty much lived and breathed the Miami Heat since 1997 when he was an assistant head coach. So he's Heat blood through and through. But the coaching job he did last year in the playoffs really should be seen as amazing job that he joins Caron Butler and Malik Allen in the assistant head coach capacity. Heat.
Yeah, so even talk about Eric Spoelstra before he was assistant coach, he was a film analyst, right? And so he's was with the Heat for years, and so yeah, he spent his entire career there with Miami, and it's great to see somebody like that continue to have success. Obviously, has won championships. With the Heat, I was sad to see that some of those key players through their playoff run left. Gabe Vincent and Max Strus left the team, obviously, and then I don't feel like their additions necessarily replace that, except for maybe with Jaquez. And so I think that they can be great, especially if they can stay healthy. But I'm not as optimistic as I was a few months ago before these changes happened. So I'm hopeful. I want to see the Heat and Butler especially succeed and get deep into the playoffs again. But I'm a little bit hesitant. I feel like they don't quite have the whole team together. I loved the lineup they had all last year, especially with Oladipo and Hero whenever they're healthy on the court, and now that's gone.
Yeah, it's a good point. Missing Oladipo, Vincent, and Struess, and replacing those three with pretty much Jaime Jaquez, and um, one of the maybe Thomas Bryant will play a lot coming in as well. But yeah, it does look interesting considering the Heat had to go through the play-in tournament to get into the playoffs first. You kind of wonder where that would be. They still won the Southeast Conference last year, or did they? Or did Atlanta win? I can't remember now. But um,
They
so
won it.
they did win the Southeast. And I think they're going to win it again, and I do expect them to be better this year. I just expect that kind of momentum from last year, even though they're missing pieces. I think they're going to be a better team. They're going to figure it out than they were last year, and I really do like the addition of Jaime Jaquez, and he's going to be, I think, outside of Kevin Love, he'll be like that seventh player off the bench that will do a lot of good things for them. And so I just can't see the Heat being worse than they were last year, just because they struggled to get into the playoffs at first and then went on a run. I expect that run to kind of continue a little bit.
One can hope.
Yeah. Okay, Orlando Magic. um, there's a lot of good vibes coming from a lot of analysts about what the Magic can do this year, and a lot of it. Paolo Banchero here, first overall pick last year, rookie of the year. He averaged 20.7 rebounds a game. Uh, a lot of things that I'm hearing is that he's just getting started for where he can be in his career. Franz Wagner was also really good last year. He was that second option behind Banchero. 19 points a game, really good 3-point shooter. Wendell Carter at center, Gary Harris, an excellent 3-point shooter, and Markel Fultz, who is he may not ever live up to that first overall pick that he was a few years ago, but he's finally coming into his own as a really good point guard in this league. The depth includes Michigan, um, and so Caleb Houston, Jet Howard, Moritz Wagner, three Michigan players to join Franz Wagner, who's also from Michigan. So 4 out of 15 players on this roster come from Michigan. Jet Howard, by the way, is Juwan Howard's son. So he played for Juwan at Michigan for a few years. So, or maybe just 1 year. I think he was a one and done player. Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony as well. Anthony Black, another Arkansas rookie. How many are there? I don't know. 3 or 4 players
Three.
came out of Arkansas last year. So,
Yeah, three.
um, Jonathan Isaac, who has been hurt for the better part of 4 years. He played a little bit last year once he finally returned from injury. He was a starter once upon a time, and so can he return to that kind of status after being injured for so long? So, oops, I missed the missed the coaches. Jamal Mosley in his third season, alongside Brett Brielmeyer and Lionel Chalmers, who's the cousin of Mario, um, as the assistants there. Now I can stop. Okay. Um, Again, I had such a difficult time picking this division, but I ended up settling on fourth with Orlando. Although an argument could be made for third for me, just because I think the Magic have a lot of good pieces that they and a lot of promising players that can turn this around. I'm reading what analysts are saying that watch out for the Orlando Magic. They will challenge for this division. I'm reading a lot of that. I'm not sure I quite believe that yet, but it'd be fun to see new blood in the playoffs for a change. And so Orlando could be that team. And I really like Paolo Banchero. He immediately stepped in as a rookie and took over that team. And so watch it is a team to watch out for, I think. But it'd be fun.
Yeah, I can see what the NBA analysts see in that you look at Banchero and you look at this team full of youth and energy and say, hey, if they can get some chemistry together, they can absolutely go on huge winning streaks. But then the opposite is true, is that if they end up losing 2 or 3 games in a row as such young players, it can really get in their head and then they can just fall apart through the season. And so I think that this is about momentum for the Magic. Is if they can build up momentum and resiliency, then yeah, I think the analysts can see something special. By special, I think we're talking about winning 40 games.
Mhm.
Um, but I like some parts of this roster, and they're trying to just build everything around Banchero, which is not a bad idea. Um, but outside of him, there's nobody on this team that you think, even with him, I don't see anybody on this team making an All NBA team.
Mhm.
I don't see anybody on this team being the kind of guy they build posters and shoes around. Um, but that doesn't mean that they can't make a run. Again, I don't expect them to win more than 40 games, and I don't expect it to be a good season. Um, in fact, I think this is more of a 30 to 35 win team.
That's fair. I think probably where I'm picking them too. Okay, last team in the Southeast, the Washington Wizards. They obviously went through a lot of transition with Bradley Beal leaving. They traded Bradley Beal, but they made sure to get their share of players in addition. Jordan Poole is the big one that comes over in that trade. It included Bradley Beal to the Suns. It included Chris Paul going to the Wizard or to the Suns.
Warrior.
Uh, my goodness. Chris Paul from the Suns to the Warriors, Jordan Poole from the Warriors to the Wizards, Bradley Beal from the Wizards to the Suns. That's how it went. So Jordan Poole was kind of that third, or you could say step splash brother for the Warriors, and he did average 20 points per game, and so he's going to step into that starting lineup alongside Kyle Kuzma, who averaged 21 points and 7 rebounds a game last year. Those two will be the big two. Daniel Gafford, not a big time scorer, but a good defender at center. Tyus Jones, a traditional good point guard that comes over from Memphis, and then they drafted Bilal Koulibaly with I think the fifth overall pick, was he? Fourth, fifth, third, sixth,
Like that
uh, top 10 pick at least.
lottery.
What was that?
Lottery.
A lottery pick coming out of France. Yeah, you can see that in his pro debut, he only scored 5 points and 3 rebounds. But before that, he was scoring like 32 points per game, and in his previous team. And so the guy can score. It's just a question of how raw he is coming into the NBA. But he'll probably start at that three spot. Uh, Depth includes Danilo Gallinari, who comes over from Atlanta. He didn't play at all last year because of injury, but he's a experienced veteran, along with Landry Shamet from Phoenix, who also is included in that trade. Mike Muscala from the Celtics, and Tristan Vukcevic comes over as a rookie as well. Taj Gibson, DeLon Wright, Johnny Davis, Corey Kispert, a few of those impactful depth players. Corey Kispert in particular was excellent from the 3-point line. And there could be a case for him to start at that three if Koulibaly isn't ready. And so Kispert could start at the small forward. Wes Unseld Jr., the son of the Hall of Famer in his third season, alongside David Vanterpool and James Posey as the assistant coaches. Dustin, the Wizards.
So I think that I'm predicting the Wizards to be the worst team in the league. Um, I no disrespect to Jordan Poole. I think he's a great player, but he was a third, fourth, fifth option in the Warriors, and that allowed him to succeed because he was not the person the defense was focused on. And now he comes over and he's going to be a number one option. And that means that, 4 times a year, you got Jimmy Butler lacing up against you, and he's going to make sure you're not going to score. And so with him being the first option, he's always going to have the best defender against him. And I think it's going to be a punch in the mouth for him. He's going to struggle. That's my prediction on that, is that he was in a great situation in the Bay Area. Yeah, in the Bay Area, and just doesn't have doesn't have the team built around him for him to have any level of the similar success. And so I don't think that this is a team that's going to break 20 wins.
Okay. I like your analysis. I hadn't thought of it that way. And so again, I had difficulty schedule or picking this division, and I liked the addition of Jordan Poole, and I like Kyle Kuzma there. And I really like Tyus Jones at point guard. I think he's one of the more underrated point guards, even though he played kind of behind John Morant last year in Memphis. I think that he can add a lot to that team, and I like Bilal Coulibaly if he can figure out if he can get over the raw stage, and I like the depth of Corey Kispert in particular. But so I think this team had a lot to offer, a lot to overcome the odds and get back to that middle of the pack kind of roster. So I do like your analysis that that Jordan Poole might struggle with realizing that he's the number one option and that teams are going to focus in on him. That makes a lot of sense to me, and I hadn't thought about it that way. And so um, I really, outside of picking the Heat number one, I'm very and the Hawks number two. Outside of those two, I was really shuffling 3 through 5 for me, and so let me show that screen then somewhere. I have to go find that screen. Hold on, sorry. There it is. Okay. Whoops. You're seeing a preview. Here we go. Oh, Cody did go in. Look at that. So this is how we picked it. Again, I'm not confident at all in my 3 through 5 picks there, other than maybe I don't know. Nope, that's kind of where I am. Uh, and again, I thought that the Wizards. I like Jordan Poole, and so coming over and teaming with Kyle Kuzma, who's healthy finally, and so I liked the Wizards taking a leap, and I thought that they could. And I thought the opposite about the Hornets. Although an argument can be made to flip those the way you have, but I don't think the Hornets are going to leapfrog the Hawks, though. That's my one thing.
Yeah, that was my analysis, that I provided on the Hornets, is that I think they have a roster that's poised to do that, to end up leapfrogging and be a competitor in the division. I mean, last year, the Heat won the division and got into the play-in tournament, right? There's nobody in the top half of the Eastern Conference from this division. And so I kind of expect something similar, maybe with the Heat and Hornets being able to sneak into the top half. But yeah, this is a weak division and they're hard to place. But I feel confident in the Wizards being last.
Okay. Let's jump off and jump back on to do the next one. Just because the way that I've done it on YouTube is to let me hit stop record. So